I'm looking at an Instagram story of my boyfriend making out with my best friend in a resort pool. And honestly, I'm past sad. I'm just pissed. Let me walk you through how I discovered my entire relationship was a lie, because this is a whole new level of betrayal that I'm still trying to wrap my head around, and you all deserve to hear this. 3 weeks ago, Brian told me he needed space. He just walked into my apartment, the one he'd been living in rent-free for a year, mind you, and announced he was overwhelmed and needed to figure things out. He claimed work was stressing him out, that he wasn't sure about us anymore, and that he needed a couple of weeks to clear his head. I asked him point blank if we were breaking up, and he swore we weren't. He said he loved me but just needed some time alone. He was going to crash at his brother Steven's place and we'd keep contact to a minimum while he sorted out his feelings. Fine. I told him to take his time and figure his crap out. I wasn't about to beg someone to stay when they already had one foot out the door. He packed a bag, left, and I tried to go on with my life. Yeah, it hurt. But I refused to fall apart over a guy who couldn't handle a basic adult conversation. You know who was incredibly supportive through all of this? Emily, my best friend of 6 years, the person I trusted with absolutely everything. She came over that very first night with a bottle of wine and told me Brian was probably just having a commitment freakout and would come to his senses. For the next 3 weeks, she was my rock, texting me constantly, getting me out of the house, and playing the part of the perfect, supportive friend. I told her everything about my relationship with Brian. Every fight, every insecurity, every private moment. She knew it all. Because that's what best friends are for, right? So I thought. Fast forward to 2 Fridays ago. I'm on my lunch break at work, scrolling through Instagram while eating a sad desk sandwich. I tap on Emily's story. It's a pretty picture of a sunset on a beach. Nice, whatever. I swipe to the next one. It's Brian, in a resort pool, with Emily's arm wrapped around him. The next story, them kissing. A full-on make-out session. The caption read, "Sometimes the best things are unexpected," complete with heart emojis. My coworker Maggie asked if I was okay because I guess the expression on my face was pretty dramatic. I wordlessly showed her my phone and she audibly gasped. But here's the thing. I didn't cry. I didn't break down. I just got angry. I called Emily immediately. Voicemail. Called again. Straight to voicemail. I texted her, asking what in the actual hell was happening. No reply. Meanwhile, she's posting more stories. Them at a swim-up bar, clinking glasses, them walking on the beach, living their best, most treacherous life. I called Brian. Also voicemail. I left a message telling him to call me back immediately. Maggie offered to send me home, but I refused. I worked my entire shift. I wasn't going to let this ruin my day any more than it already had. That night, I went home, opened my laptop, and started digging through their social media like a detective. And you know what? Once I knew what to look for, the signs were everywhere. Brian leaving thirsty comments on Emily's gym selfies from months ago. Her posting from coffee shops right near his office. Flirty back and forths between them that I had completely overlooked. They had been building this right under my nose. I called my sister Josie, who was ready to drive down from Seattle and commit a felony on my behalf. I told her to relax, that I had it handled. I didn't know how yet, but I knew I wasn't going to just sit there and feel sorry for myself. All weekend, they kept posting. Beach photos, fancy dinners, a couple's massage, the whole 9 yards. And the entire time, neither of them answered a single one of my calls or texts. Total radio silence while they flaunted their betrayal across the internet. On Monday, I went to work and was completely focused. Sure, word had spread and some coworkers knew, but I held my head high. I refused to give them the satisfaction of seeing me break. On Tuesday, I drove by Steven's house, where Brian was supposedly staying. His car, of course, was nowhere in sight, because he was in Florida. Wednesday afternoon, Emily finally called. She launched into this pre-rehearsed speech about how sorry she was, how things just happened. She told me she and Brian had been talking for months and had developed feelings. She said it as casually as if she were telling me about a show she'd started watching. I just let her talk. I let her explain how they bonded while he was figuring things out, how they fought their feelings but just couldn't deny them any longer. How Brian had apparently been unhappy with me for almost a year. Then I asked a single question. How long, exactly? Months, she said. They'd been talking for months. While she was consoling me about my relationship issues, while she was giving me advice on how to handle Brian, she was secretly falling for him. And then she said the one thing that made me see red. She said that Brian and I were basically over anyway, that our relationship had run its course, and that she was actually doing me a favor by helping him move on. She said that, eventually, I should be able to be happy for them. I actually laughed. Then I told her she was delusional if she thought I'd ever be happy for them, and I hung up. Next, I called Brian. He picked up this time, starting his own apology tour about how he never meant to hurt me, how feelings are complicated, and how he and Emily just clicked in a way we never did. I asked if he'd been using my best friend to get intel on me. He denied it at first, saying it wasn't like that Emily just talked about me because she cared. But then he admitted it. He admitted she'd shared things I told her in confidence. My fears, my doubts, everything. He said it helped him understand my perspective. He helped himself to my private thoughts to build his exit strategy with the person I trusted most. I asked if space was just a cover to test drive a relationship with Emily. He got quiet, then mumbled something about it being complicated. He needed time, and in that time, he realized Emily was what he wanted. I told him we were done and that he could figure out a way to get his crap from my apartment because he was never setting foot in there again. He asked if we could talk in person when he got back to explain properly. I said, absolutely not, and hung up the phone. And here's where you might be surprised. I didn't break down. I didn't even cry. I got strategic. I went through my apartment, boxing up every last thing Brian owned. I called his brother, Steven, and told him to pick it up by Friday or it was going in a dumpster. Steven was genuinely apologetic, saying he had no idea Brian was in Florida with Emily. He thought his brother was actually staying with him and working through things. He'd been lied to, too. I threw out every photo of us. I scrubbed our pictures from my phone and all my social media. In one single productive evening, I erased every trace of him from my life. Thursday, I went to work like nothing happened. Friday, I hit the gym. Saturday, I deep cleaned my apartment and rearranged the furniture so it didn't feel like our place anymore. On Sunday, they flew back. I know because Emily posted a story of them at baggage claim, looking tan and happy. They immediately began flooding their feeds with couple content, dinner dates, movie nights, acting like this was a love story for the ages, not a relationship built on a foundation of lies. Our mutual friends were divided. Some messaged me privately, horrified at what Emily had done. Others just liked and commented on their photos as if everything was normal. I hit unfollow on anyone who acted like this was okay. I don't need that kind of energy in my life. My mom found out from Josie and called me, worried. I told her I was truly fine. I was furious, but I was fine. For the next week, I watched them perform their perfect life on social media, going to our old restaurants, hanging out with our old friends, acting like they hadn't just detonated my life. And as I watched, an idea started to form. Because here's what guys like Brian never get. When you betray someone, you don't just lose them. You lose their discretion. You lose the person who knew all your secrets and kept them safe. And I knew things. I knew things about both of them that they almost certainly hadn't shared with each other in the whirlwind of their new, forbidden romance. Emily had a pattern. A history. She had cheated on every single boyfriend she'd ever had. She confessed this to me years ago during a drunken heart-to-heart about our worst traits. She said she gets bored easily, that she loves the thrill of the new, that she can't help herself when she's attracted to someone. She had cheated on her ex, Jason, 3 separate times before Heffinally dumped her. I was the one who helped her through that breakup, listening to her cry about how she wished she could just be faithful. Brian had no idea he was dating a serial cheater. He probably thought he was special. And Brian had his own demons Emily didn't know about. His intense jealousy, his need for control, his paranoia about any male friends a girlfriend might have. These were things I managed and navigated because I loved him. Things that would absolutely surface once their honeymoon phase ended. They thought they had won. They thought they could just ride off into the sunset. But I wasn't finished. I was just getting started. Friday night, exactly 2 weeks after I saw that pool picture, I was in bed when Emily posted a story of them at a party. Everyone was laughing, looking happy. I screenshotted it and added it to a folder on my laptop where I was collecting everything. Their posts, timestamps of when their comments started, screenshots of old chats where Emily detailed her cheating history. I wasn't planning anything illegal, but I was planning something. They had publicly humiliated me and thought I would just quietly disappear. I opened a doc and started listing everything I knew about Emily's patterns and Brian's insecurities, all the little cracks that would eventually break them apart. Then I thought about Jason, the ex she cheated on repeatedly. Nice guy. And then I remembered something. She'd mentioned he moved back to town a few months ago. A small smile spread across my face. If Emily thought she could just move on without consequences, she was about to get a serious reality check. I closed my laptop and went to sleep. For the first time in 2 weeks, I slept soundly. Tomorrow, the real work would begin. Okay, so I mentioned I had a plan. It came together faster than I expected. And honestly, it was kind of brilliant. Monday morning, I'm at Target grabbing laundry detergent when I literally run into Brian. Like, I almost smashed my cart into his in the cleaning aisle. He was with Emily. The look on our 3 faces was absolutely priceless. Emily immediately grabbed Brian's arm as if I was about to lunge at them. I just stood there, staring. Brian actually had the nerve to smirk at me. A smirk. Then he wrapped his arm around Emily's waist, pulled her in, and made a whole production of kissing her cheek while staring right at me. Emily giggled. He says, "Hey, didn't think I'd see you here. You doing okay?" The fake concern in his voice made me want to launch my detergent at his head. I just said, I'm doing great, thanks for asking. Emily then jumped in with a sickly sweet voice, saying she hoped there were no hard feelings, that they were just following their hearts, and that she hoped I could be mature about it. Mature. She wanted me to be mature. Brian nodded. Yeah, it'd be sad if you couldn't move on. You should focus on your own happiness instead of being bitter. I smiled and told them I hoped they were very happy together. Emily looked surprised, like she was expecting a scene. Brian almost looked disappointed I wasn't giving him the drama he so clearly craved. I walked away, fuming, but I kept my composure. I was not giving them that satisfaction. Wednesday, I'm working my shift at the pharmacy when, of course, Emily comes in. She walked right up to my register, even though 2 others were open. She was clearly there to rub my face in it. As I processed her prescription, she started making small talk, asking how I've been, saying we should grab coffee sometime and talk things through like adults. I told her I was pretty busy. Oh, I'm sure, she said. Must be hard adjusting to being single again. Then she leaned in and whispered, Brian is amazing, by the way. Better than I ever imagined. I'm so glad things worked out. She added, maybe if you'd been better at keeping him interested, he wouldn't have had to look elsewhere. I handed her the bag without a word. She left, looking smug. That night, I sat down and really considered what I wanted. I didn't want Brian back. Seeing him at Target made that perfectly clear. He was a smug jerk who thought he'd won. Emily was a venomous snake who got off on my pain. I wanted them to feel the same humiliation they'd put me through. And that's when I remembered Jason, Emily's ex. The one she'd cheated on multiple times. She'd called him boring, said she needed excitement. I found him on Instagram. He seemed like a decent, normal guy. On Friday night, I sent him a DM. I introduced myself as a friend of Emily's and said I had a few questions about their past relationship. He replied Saturday morning, saying he'd be happy to talk, especially since he'd seen the social media drama and figured she was destroying other people's friendships now. We met that Sunday. I laid out the entire sordid story. He wasn't even surprised. That's classic Emily, he said. He told me how she'd cheated on him with a coworker, a guy from her gym, and some random dude from a bar. Each time, she'd cry and apologize and swear it would never happen again. Each time, he believed her. He said the final straw was finding flirty messages to 3 different guys on her phone. When he confronted her, she turned it on him, calling him boring and inattentive. Then I asked the million-dollar question, has she contacted you recently? He pulled out his phone. The messages were from the past week. She'd texted him Tuesday, saying she missed him. Thursday, she'd sent a picture of a restaurant they used to love. Friday, she asked him to get drinks. He'd been ignoring her. She was texting her ex-boyfriend while she was still posting vacation pics with her new one. I leaned back. I have a proposition for you. He raised an eyebrow. I told him I wanted to expose Emily for exactly who she is, and I needed his help. I laid out the plan. Respond to her messages. Agree to meet up. Let her flirt, let her escalate things. And when she inevitably tried to sleep with him, because her pattern suggested she would, I wanted him to record it. Jason just stared at me. Are you serious? Completely, I said. She destroyed my relationship and my longest friendship, and was now actively taunting me. She deserved for Brian to see who he'd really chosen. He said he'd think about it. Monday evening, he texted me, I'm in. We met again Tuesday to coordinate. He'd already replied to her, and she was ecstatic. I told him to suggest drinks for Thursday, somewhere with private booths. He sent the text right there, and she agreed instantly. We spent the next hour planning. Jason would meet her, let her work her magic, and if she made a move, he'd go along with it, making sure his phone was recording. He asked if I was sure. Absolutely, I said. Wednesday, I saw Brian and Emily at the grocery store. I heard Brian's loud voice telling Emily how pathetic I seemed at Target, like I was barely holding it together. Emily laughed and said I'd always been weak and emotional. I ducked behind a rack of bread as they continued to trash talk me. Brian said he felt bad for me, that I'd probably never find anyone as good as him. The audacity. He left me, remember? I abandoned my cart and walked out. I needed them to think I was broken. Thursday, I texted Jason, good luck. He sent back a thumbs up. I spent the night pacing my apartment. Around 11, Jason texted. It worked. Got everything. You were right about her. I called him. He said she was all over him, and after 2 drinks, suggested they go back to his place. He set up his phone on his dresser, and she went for it, all on video. Afterwards, she lay there talking about how getting with Brian was a mistake and how she'd never gotten over Jason. I told him to hold on to the video. I was waiting for the perfect moment. The next morning, Emily came into the pharmacy again, practically glowing. She came right to my register to tell me how in love she and Brian were. Then she said, Brian told me you looked really sad at Target. I just hope you find someone eventually. Maybe if you work on yourself and figure out why you can't keep a man, you'll have better luck. I just smiled and handed her the bag. Actually, I said, I've been working on myself a lot. I'm feeling really good about where things are headed. The confusion on her face was delicious. On Saturday, Brian texted, saying he heard I was having a hard time. I didn't respond. On Sunday, he texted again, saying they hoped we could all be mature and stay in the same friend group. I finally replied, tell Emily she should focus on her relationship with you. Seems like it might need her full attention. He sent back a question mark. I left him on read. Monday, Jason texted. Emily had been blowing up his phone, wanting to see him again. She was already checked out on Brian. I told Jason to hold tight. I was waiting. Then, Tuesday morning, the moment arrived. Emily posted a long, gushing caption about finding her soulmate with a picture of her and Brian. I screenshotted it, sent it to Jason, and told him, it's time. Final update. Okay, you're all dying to know how this ended. Honest. It was better than I could have ever imagined. On Wednesday evening, Jason texted me a screenshot. Emily had just messaged him, asking to come over because Brian was working late and she was bored. She used a winky face emoji. I told Jason to suggest they meet at a bar first, just to have a public starting point. At 9 p.m., he texted, she's here. It's happening. I paced my living room for 2 hours. At 11:30, I got the text, done. She just left. Sending everything now. The video file arrived. It was perfect. Clear audio, clear video of her face. Thursday morning, I made a new, anonymous Instagram account. I sent the video to Brian with a simple message, thought you should know who you're really dating. This was last night while you were at work. Then I sent the same video to Emily, Brian's going to see this. Might want to get your story ready. I went to work feeling a sense of calm I hadn't felt in weeks. Around noon, my phone exploded. Calls and texts from both of them. I ignored it all. Over the next few hours, Brian's messages went from confused, to angry, to utterly desperate. He called me 11 times. Emily's texts were a different beast. She accused me of ruining her life, then tried to play the victim, saying I was cruel for recording her. When I got off work, I had 43 missed calls. I finally listened to Brian's voicemails. The first few were just him asking me to call. Then they got angry. Then the tone completely shifted. Voicemail number 8 was him sobbing. Actual, broken, incoherent sobbing. He said he'd confronted Emily, and she'd admitted everything. He wailed that he'd made the biggest mistake of his life. The next voicemail was him wondering if I had somehow orchestrated it all. The one after that was back to him crying, saying Emily had admitted she's a serial cheater who would probably never be faithful to anyone. I sat in my car in the parking lot, listening to his world crumble, and I felt nothing. Not sympathy, not even satisfaction. Just a cold, hard certainty that he deserved this. I deleted the voicemails. Emily's texts accused me of orchestrating the whole thing, then switched to begging for forgiveness, saying, real friends, forgive each other. She claimed Brian believed her story that it was all my fault. His voicemails told a very different story. I finally sent her one reply, you ruined your own relationship the second you decided to cheat, just like you've ruined every relationship you've ever had. I didn't make you sleep with Jason. You did that all by yourself. She tried to call. I declined and blocked her number. Friday morning, there was a frantic pounding on my door. It was Brian. I opened the door but blocked the entrance. He immediately started rambling about how Emily was a liar and a cheater who had manipulated both of us. He said I was the only good thing he ever had and he'd thrown it all away. I just crossed my arms and asked why he was here. I need you, he said. He begged for me to talk about fixing things. I told him there was nothing to fix. He made his choice when he asked for space to sleep with my best friend. What happened with Emily was exactly what he deserved. He started crying right there in my doorway, saying he'd lost everything and I was his only chance at happiness. I looked at the man I once loved, this broken person in my doorway, and felt nothing. Not a single thing. I hope you learned something from this, I said. Actions have consequences. You don't get to treat people like garbage and come crawling back when it blows up in your face. I told him the conversation was over, to leave, and to never contact me again. He stood there for another minute, looking utterly lost, then finally turned and walked away. That Saturday, my sister Josie came to visit. She said she was proud of me, but also a little terrified of my capacity for revenge. I told her it wasn't revenge, it was consequences. We spent the day shopping and getting our nails done, and for the first time, I felt light. Jason later texted me that Emily had tried to blame him, but Brian didn't buy it and had even apologized to Jason. It was wild watching her try to rewrite a history that was literally caught on video. He asked if I was satisfied. I told him absolutely. Emily got exposed. Brian got what was coming to him. And I got to move on. A few days ago, Brian messaged me from a burner account, saying he was moving away and would probably always regret what he did. I didn't reply. I just blocked the account. So, yeah. That's the end of the story. And to Brian and Emily, if you ever see this, I hope those 2 weeks in Florida were worth it. Because in the end, that's all you got before it all came crashing down.